Listen carefully, because what I'm about to say is not hype, not fear-mongering, and not financial advice. It's an observation, one that anyone can verify using publicly available data if they know where to look. Right now, something unusual is happening beneath the surface of the XRP market, and most people aren't paying attention because they're focused on price alone. Before we go any further, if you value calm, clear explanations instead of panic-driven noise, take 1 second and tap the like button. And if you want more market breakdowns like this, subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next. Here's the uncomfortable truth about markets. The biggest moves rarely begin when the crowd is watching. They begin quietly during periods of boredom, confusion, or disbelief. By the time headlines start screaming, positioning has already happened. XRP has always been an asset where surface level price action tells only a small part of the story. Unlike purely speculative tokens, XRP exists within a larger financial and regulatory conversation. That means the forces acting on it are not just emotional, they're structural. When people hear the word whales, they often imagine shadowy figures manipulating prices at will. The reality is more boring and more important. Large holders don't move markets emotionally. They move according to liquidity needs, timing windows, and risk models. And those movements leave footprints. Right now, those footprints are visible, not as a promise of price direction, but as a shift in behavior. Let's be clear, seeing large transfers does not automatically mean price is going up or down. Anyone telling you that is oversimplifying. What it does mean is that capital is repositioning, and repositioning always happens before resolution, not after. Public blockchain data allows anyone to see movement between wallets. It doesn't tell us intent, but it does tell us activity, and activity is information. What's notable at this moment is not a single transaction, but a pattern of accumulation and redistribution that doesn't match typical retail behavior. Retail traders react to price. Larger entities prepare for scenarios. This is where many people get misled. They wait for confirmation from price, but by the time confirmation arrives, risk has already shifted. Markets don't reward certainty, they reward preparation. Another thing to understand is that XRP's liquidity profile makes it especially sensitive to changes in large holder behavior. Because it's designed for efficient movement, shifts can happen quickly once momentum appears. That doesn't mean a move is guaranteed. It means the system is primed, and primed systems don't announce themselves loudly. They sit quietly until conditions align. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that nothing happening on the chart means nothing is happening at all. In reality, charts show results, not setup. The setup happens elsewhere, in positioning, in sentiment, in liquidity alignment. If you're still watching, this is your reminder to stay calm and focused. Panic is never required to stay informed. Another important point that often gets ignored is timing. Markets operate in windows, regulatory windows, liquidity windows, narrative windows. When those windows overlap, movement accelerates. XRP exists in a market where regulatory clarity has been slowly increasing, not decreasing. That doesn't guarantee outcomes, but it changes risk calculations for larger participants. Large players don't need hype, they need reduced uncertainty. That's why sudden changes in wallet behavior matter. Not because they predict price, but because they reflect changing assumptions. Think of it like weather pressure building before a storm. Pressure doesn't tell you exactly when rain starts, but it tells you conditions are changing, and conditions around XRP are not static right now. It's also critical to understand that not all whales are aligned. Some reposition defensively, some reposition opportunistically, some simply rebalance. Blockchain data shows movement, not motive. That's why responsible analysis avoids dramatic claims. This video is not telling you to buy or sell anything. It's telling you to pay attention. Attention without emotion is power. Another thing most people miss is how narratives are timed. Public sentiment often turns after positioning is complete. By the time the crowd feels confident, the asymmetry is gone. That's why early awareness matters more than early action. XRP has survived long periods of uncertainty. Assets that don't have structural value usually disappear during those periods. Survival alone doesn't guarantee success, but it narrows the field, and narrowing the field changes probabilities. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video. It tells the algorithm this content is worth showing to others who want understanding instead of fear. In the next part, we're going to talk about why these shifts tend to happen during quiet phases, how liquidity zones influence behavior, and what most retail traders misunderstand about confirmation. Because the real warning isn't about price, it's about misreading silence. silence. And that's where most people get caught off guard, because silence is where assumptions get dangerous. When nothing dramatic is happening on the surface, the human brain fills in the gaps. People assume the trend is dead, interest is gone, or the opportunity has passed. But markets don't operate on attention spans. They operate on structure, and structure doesn't need applause to function. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern markets is confirmation. Retail participants often wait for price confirmation because it feels safe. Green candles feel reassuring, breakouts feel validating, headlines feel comforting. But by the time confirmation appears, the asymmetric opportunity has often already shifted. Risk has moved from uncertainty to exposure. This is not a criticism of retail traders. It's a structural reality. Large participants cannot wait for confirmation because confirmation itself creates slippage. When price starts moving aggressively, liquidity thins, entries become expensive, exits become crowded. That's why positioning happens before clarity, not after. Liquidity zones are central to this conversation. Price doesn't move randomly through space. It moves toward areas where transactions can occur efficiently. These areas form where orders cluster, where fear and confidence intersect, and where expectations concentrate. Whales don't create these zones out of thin air. They respond to them. When you see large XRP movements between wallets or exchanges, the question isn't, are they buying or selling? The better question is, why now? Timing reveals more than direction. Capital does not move without reason. Even neutral repositioning reflects changing assumptions about future conditions. Another misconception is that whale activity always implies immediate volatility. In reality, some of the most important repositioning happens slowly and quietly. Gradual accumulation doesn't move price much. Strategic redistribution doesn't attract headlines. That's intentional. Sudden visibility increases cost. This is where patience separates observation from reaction. Watching behavior over time reveals patterns that single moments can't. Anyone can spot a spike. Fewer people track consistency. XRP's design makes it particularly interesting in this context. Because transactions are fast and inexpensive, movement doesn't carry the same friction as other networks. That efficiency can mask significance. A large transfer on a slower, more expensive chain draws attention. On XRP, it can pass unnoticed unless someone is looking closely. That doesn't mean every transfer matters. It means patterns matter. Another factor people underestimate is the role of custodians, market makers, and liquidity providers. Not all large wallets represent directional bets. Some represent infrastructure. Some represent inventory. Understanding that distinction prevents emotional conclusions. Still, infrastructure activity itself responds to expected demand. Liquidity providers adjust inventory based on anticipated usage. When behavior shifts, it reflects changing expectations somewhere in the system. This is why serious analysis avoids absolutes. It looks for probabilities. It asks what is becoming more likely, not what is guaranteed. And probability shifts are exactly what subtle repositioning suggests. There's also a psychological layer to all of this. Humans crave certainty. Markets punish it. When people feel most confident, risk is often highest. When people feel bored or disengaged, opportunity can quietly improve. That doesn't mean boredom equals profit. It means boredom removes competition. XRP has spent long stretches outside the spotlight. During those periods, narratives cooled, emotions settled, speculation thinned. What remained was infrastructure, development, and slow recalibration. Markets often need these cooling phases. Excessive excitement distorts price. Excessive fear does the same.